What is up, Glory Gang?
Yo.
Welcome back to another episode of the Glory Boys podcast. I'm your host, Austin.
And I'm Darren.
In this episode, you asked and we answered part 2. Let's get into it. Let's roll that intro.
All right, without further ado, you know what time it is. It's time to get into these questions. But before we do that, that's so nice. I just love that sound.
Since you can't see us on video this week, this is a C4 that we're cracking right now.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so if you are watching on YouTube, the place that we typically film these in our auditorium at our church office is currently a disaster.
Well, our church is actually moving into a new building, a new grand opening this weekend, Sunday at the Ralston Arena here in Omaha, Nebraska, and it's going to be awesome. We're super excited, but where we typically film the podcast, there's a lot of stuff in the auditorium, and so we're actually a ton of stuff. So we're recording it in our office, audio only. It's a little tight for video. We could probably make it happen, but this will suffice, and we're just going to dive into these questions. But what have you been up to, Austin?
What haven't we been up to?
Yeah, what have you been up to? Just taking naps?
Yeah, pretty much just sleeping. No, we've been out of town a lot. So since we last recorded podcasts, we went to Georgia, filmed a wedding there.
It's true.
Which was awesome. We were out for a few days. Then every year around this time, we get a big job from a great client of ours who will hire us to go around the Midwest, all around the Midwest, everywhere from Nebraska to Illinois to Minnesota, Iowa, all them Midwest states, and shoot farms, which is really great.
Yeah, it sounds kind of funny, like, oh, that sounds awful, but we thoroughly enjoy working with Newman Ranch and shooting these farms. It's a really cool company. They're really awesome to work with, and we always have a good time, but it is a lot. It's an all day or a couple day thing where we travel. We'll either drive multiple hours out to somewhere, stay in a hotel, and then shoot all day the next day. So it's a grind. It's early mornings, late nights, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so that's been a lot of the last couple of weeks. We also had our annual church's men's conference this last weekend, which was super great. But yeah, again, just a few days out of town. So it's been a crazy couple weeks.
And we had a same-day edit.
On Saturday. We had to come back a little bit early from men's conference, and we had a same-day edit, and which was awesome. It was definitely the most interesting wedding that I've ever worked.
Yeah, so we shot our first Vietnamese wedding ever. And we didn't really know what to expect going into the day, but right off the bat, it was already super different. The ceremony was a couple hours long at a home, at the father's house, the father of the bride, and there was like 50 to 75 people crammed in this pretty small area.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice house, but for 75 people, I mean,
it got tight, and it was hot outside, so everyone kind of had to be. Yeah, it got really hot inside also, but it was awesome. We had a ton of fun. It was a lot of different. It was a different type of wedding, obviously, and so it was fun to capture something different than the normal, just Nebraska wedding.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll have to break down that wedding sometime on a future
for
episode.
Sure. They did dragon dances. They did karaoke. They had a polka band. I mean,
and they had a whole separate video photo team. Two DJs. Like, it was great.
It was nuts. Yeah, we'll talk about that in another episode. But it was honestly, the bride and groom were some of our most favorite brides and grooms to ever work with. They were so sweet, and they were awesome. They did a same day edit that day, and happened to tell us that one of their favorite parts of the entire day was when they could just sit down at the reception, everybody quiet, with the lights low, and just to be able to watch a 3.5-minute film that we put together that day for them. She bawled hysterically. I think he got a couple tears in his eyes, but it was a really sweet moment. It was an awesome day. But here we are back at it. Glory Boys podcast. You asked, we answered. We're going to jump into the first question here.
Let's do it.
All right, so our homie Luke, he asked us, what's the top 10 favorite music groups of of you guys. So what's like, if you just had to ramble off 10 music groups? I know this is a hard question. Everyone's like, oh, what's your favorite band? Well, I don't have a favorite band. So if I'm like
top 10,
how
are you going to hit top 10?
I know.
Oh man. I don't know that I could do this without making myself sound like an idiot.
It's all right. Just do it. Just try it.
Oh gosh.
All right. All right, bottom, start 10 first.
I honestly don't know. I know like I could probably pick 10 bands, but
okay, just pick 10 bands.
But they're all like bands I haven't listened to in forever.
That's okay.
I would probably put Foreigner in there.
Okay, that's one.
Okay, you could probably put Journey,
2,
Styx,
3,
and then like does like Eminem and Kanye count?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay,
that's
Eminem,
5.
Kanye.
Okay.
Shoot, it's way too hard.
It is tough.
I just was never like a huge band fanboy. Like there were never bands that I was like, wow, I really loved. I just like songs.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So you have 5 left. Is there any like group, or I mean even like just single artists that you liked? Like when you were a kid, you didn't like jam some Enrique Iglesias or Ricky Martin, or
I mean, you could put like NSYNC in there probably.
Sure.
Daughtry.
You love Daughtry.
Yeah, I used to love Daughtry.
That's true. All right, that's 7.
Man.
3 more.
All right, Linkin Park,
Okay.
Green Day.
Okay.
And oh man. We'll just say Frank Ocean.
Sick.
Sure.
So you were thinking like old school, like what you grew up listening to.
Well, I don't know that I've like really latched on to any bands since then.
Right. That's fair.
Other than like individual artists. So like Kanye is a big one.
Yeah.
Eminem's a big one.
Sure.
Yeah, a lot of hip hop. I listened to a lot of hip hop after I stopped listening to 80s rock.
That's good. That's a good transition.
Yeah, I guess.
I think.
You go. I'm interested to hear your answer on this one.
So the first one I think of is Blink-182. I loved them and still do, very much so. I love The Starting Line, which they're like a pop punk band from the early 2000s that were just super awesome, and I love them. Still listen to them all the time. Very much in the Blink-182 kind of vibe of music. I love Laney a lot.
Oh yeah, I'd have to put Laney up there. 100% would be probably top 5 bands of all time.
Yeah, Laney is like my go-to. I can listen to Laney on repeat. I really, really love like synth pop stuff. So I'm kind of into different bands right now. Like, I mean, Love is awesome. I love Joan. I love like Hotel Apache and like any of those bands that just are super synth pop heavy. It's super happy music. So that's like, I don't know, 7, I think. And then
metal bands.
I did listen to a lot of metal bands growing up, but like Killswitch Engage or All That Remains, or I listened to, I mean, a lot of Christian metal bands. But growing up earlier in my life, I listened to like Korn and Limp Bizkit and Metallica and System of a Down. Like those were like my favorite in like 6th grade, 7th grade.
Nice.
But then, yeah, I love hip hop too. So I listened to Lil Wayne, like his whole discography when I was like 15 or 16 and just fell in love. And then obviously like fell in love with like Drake and Kanye and stuff like later on, like growing up. So that was probably like 10 or 12.
Yeah.
But that'll do for that one.
Do you remember Matt Carney?
Matt Carney?
Yeah.
No.
Oh man.
What's that?
He used to make those like breakup songs. We'll have to listen to
like
one.
Boyce Avenue?
Yeah,
kind of like that.
I was trying to remember the name of the guy that I used to listen to when I would clean floors. It was like after I got broken up with, so I was all sad boy. It was Matt Carney, so
Matt Carney.
Not in my top 10.
Sure.
Just there.
Just memes.
Yep.
All right, if you had one album to listen to for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Daughtry by Daughtry.
Dang. Oh man.
No, but that whole album was at my top of my most played songs on iTunes.
Oh, for sure.
It was everything else I'd listened to just like a few times, but I'd listened to that whole album like
Dang.
25 times before the month that was out.
One album for the rest of your life is like the worst question you could be asked.
Yeah.
Because everything you get sick of something after so much. But
I could probably listen to Malibu Nights by Laney.
I was going to say Malibu Nights is probably the only record I've listened to like 900 times and haven't really skipped it. But I'll just say that.
Same.
All right.
But
so
Daughtry doesn't count.
The next question, which is a really great question, it's so budget filmmaking kit essentials. So if you were a beginner, Austin, and you were given, I don't know, like $1,000 or $2,000, what would be like a solid beginner kit where you could go shoot something and make a pretty great product out of it? And what gear would that entail?
Yeah. Man, that's hard. $1,000. You really put me in a box here.
I mean,
could barely buy a camera
1,500.
and lens for that.
1,500.
Does that include a camera and lens?
I don't know. Just
all right. We'll say you have to also buy a camera and lens. This is kind of a challenge. All right. So I'm gonna say.
Well, you had this mindset at one point in your life, like where you had to face okay, I only have this much money and I want to do this professionally, but I have to there's an entry, like a barrier to entry. So you have to have a decent camera. You have to have an okay lens or decent lens. Yeah. We made it starting our company with a 50 and a 28 f2.8, like super cheap lenses. So there's ways to do it.
Yeah. So a nifty 50 would definitely be in there. I think if you really wanted to, you could film the entire project on a 50 millimeter if you really wanted to. I've done it before.
Yeah.
And it worked great. So I would say a nifty 50. So we're $125 in.
Yep.
Let's go a Canon 6D Mark I. Roughly, you could probably pick one up for $500 or so. So we're at $600. Assuming, you really can't get much great lighting for that. So we'll say you're shooting an outdoor project. Mm-hmm. I would go with,
You said the Canon 60 Mark I?
Yeah.
But the Canon 60 Mark I only does 720.
No, it does 1080.
No, 720, or 660?
Yeah. But if you're doing a film for a class project or something, you're probably just shooting 24 frames.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I'm thinking more like if you're shooting a short film, for example, I would do, a Canon 6D with a 50 millimeter. I would get like a Rode NTG2 shotgun mic with a cheap boom pole. You're looking at, a few $100 there. Get a little recorder for a couple $100 to plug in to be able to run, high quality boom audio externally and then sync and post. So right there, you're probably looking about $1,100-$1,200. And then if you have any money left over, I would buy a light, probably something like a Aperture. I think it's a 60B they make now, or the 200B it is. It's like $300. You get one of those. You have a decent key light that you can use, that you can change the colors of, and you can put modifiers on. And then I would just get a stand. Just one light. You just really have to make it work.
I'm surprised that you said you would get a Canon 6D. Explain.
Why? Well, I'm thinking
the image quality is really soft in the video.
Yeah.
Even like the A6500,
sure,
or even the 6300, I think would probably look better.
Yeah, it would probably look better for sure. You shoot in 4K.
Yeah.
And I don't know what those run now. You would probably be able to find a 6300 for like $600 now.
Sure. Yeah.
So maybe that would be a better option. Go with a Sony camera that can shoot 4K. Still would probably go. That's kind of why I was thinking full frame, because the 50 would be a little bit too tight for a crop sensor.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's fair.
But you could go with like any of Sony's cheaper wide lenses too, with the A6300. And I know a lot of people I know a person that shot with that, shot commercials on the A6300 and used it as a B cam for his stuff alongside the ARRI Alexa. And
that's crazy.
It's a great camera. So, all right, we'll go 6300, a cheap lens that's a good standard. Like I think Sony sells a 35 for crop sensor that's a couple $100. Cheap, $200 shotgun mic, a little boom pole, little recorder, and a single light. I think would at least get you started. I think that'd be a good.
I think that's a great kit. I think the simple answer for me is just let's go make some more money and buy better gear.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
That wasn't the question. So Awesome question. What we got next here. Estimating turnaround time and managing client expectations regarding timelines. That's a good question. That's from our homie Trev Colson Media. He's the best. So that's good. That's a really good question. What do you think? So estimating turnaround time and managing client expectations regarding timelines.
Yeah, that's a good one. And honestly, that's one that I am learning to do better on as far as setting expectations with the client. I think as far as turnaround time, that's something that we've just learned as we do more and more videos. We kind of know approximately, we ask that people give us a couple weeks because there's really nothing that we're doing that can't be knocked out in a day or two. And so you kind of have to figure out over time how long it takes you to edit different kinds of video, different lengths of video. And I guess our theory or the way that we go about it is typically we will underpromise. So we'll ask them for 3 weeks, but know that it'll probably only take us a week.
Yeah.
Because that way we're never under delivering.
Right.
And that's something that we've ran into recently with being as busy as we are, is that we have had, a project recently where I felt that we may have bit off a little bit more than we could chew at that time.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily our fault. It just everything fell on the same couple of weeks. And so you have to have a good grip of your schedule and really be looking ahead and what projects do I have coming up and budgeting time to do each of those projects so that you can. But I would just say under promise and over deliver in that area. Ask for more time than you know that you need.
Yep. I think that's really great. I think a part of it too is just, getting to know how quickly you can get things done, but still maintaining the quality that you're putting out, that you want to put out. We won't rush a project just because somebody wants it faster. We'll still put the same intentionality and same amount of work and thought and creative energy into just to make sure, because everything we put out we're putting it out under Glory Visuals, which is why we want to be a premier video production brand. So like if we put something out super quick just because the client wants, that doesn't really add up with our company values.
Yeah. And one last thing I would add on that question as far as managing expectations is, and this is something that, like I said, we're learning all the time, but it has to be a part of your discovery phase with the client, and something that I'm going to be building out very soon and that I have on my to-do list is to build out a discovery checklist where you actually ask the client ahead of time before you start production, before like really early on, as soon as they're like, cool, we're good with the price, let's move forward. Or even before that you're discovering, when are you wanting this project to start?
Yeah.
When is your target deadline? Is this something that you need done within the next 2 weeks? Because if it is, then I want to know that so that I can shift other things around that maybe don't need done quite so quickly. And so, it's just being proactive with communication, discovering what's important to them. Why do they need the video in this certain time frame? Is it because they're wanting to get it out? Is it because they have a presentation on this day that it absolutely needs to be done by?
Yeah.
So knowing those things is obviously very, very important if you have any hard deadlines. But just discovering the goals of the project and what the client is hoping to get out of it, and then basing your work off of that so that their expectations are met.
That's great. This next question comes from the homie Levy Ventura. His question is Final Cut Pro versus Premiere, pros and cons.
All right. So one pro of Final Cut is that it's better than Premiere. And one con of Premiere is that it's worse than Final Cut.
Great answer. Great answer.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, Premiere is better for a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's just we started with Final Cut, and there hasn't ever been a time where there was something that we wanted to do for our film that we just absolutely couldn't do in Final Cut.
Right.
And I started learning in Premiere and made one video in Premiere and switched to Final Cut. And ever since I learned that, it's just faster, cleaner, more simple. Once you kind of get the controls of the program down, I do feel like it's just more efficient. And really that's just for us. This is I don't think that's an objective statement, because it might not be more efficient for you. If you do heavy motion graphics, and it's better for you to round trip into After Effects and do your motion graphics and then push it back to Premiere to finalize the edit.
Right.
But for what we do, we don't really do a ton of motion graphics. And what we do motion graphics, Darren ghettos them in Final Cut and figures out how to do them in Final Cut.
Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, for me, I don't really know anything about Premiere other than the one project that Austin and I did at the very beginning of our company. And it was a headache and a nightmare for me. And probably my stubbornness has kept me in Final Cut, but there has been no reason for me to move out of it, because it works great and we love the workflow, and it's super easy to teach and super easy to learn. So until we find something that meets the same standards, like, we're just going to roll with Final Cut.
Yeah.
Next question is how to get more consistent clients. Maybe if you're first starting out and you're running your business and you're getting a client every week or every couple weeks, but then there's a dead time where maybe you don't get a client for 3 months. Well, if you're going full time into this thing, you kind of need that cash flow, that income coming in consistently. If you have, people on staff, you need that money coming in. So this is a big question. You could get into a lot of different things like marketing or any kind of strategy, but what's a simple answer? How to get more consistent clients. So for me, I think of right away as, I don't want just more clients. I want the type of clients that I want to work with. So if I'm not getting a ton of those clients, I'm going to think of ways that we would put out product or put out videos that would attract those type of clients. There's going to be clients in your city that you can reach out to, that you can maybe shoot for, and start to rack up some of that content and those types of brands that you want to work with, so that when you put out work, you would attract actually some of those brands to come your way and maybe give you a call or email to hire you for a project.
Yeah, something we did early on and we kind of got away from doing once we felt that we did have some consistent clients. And honestly, we would probably do this more again if there were more down periods in our business. But we're blessed to have a pretty consistent workflow and pretty consistent projects incoming. But something we did early on before that is we would reach out, like Darren said, we would just literally find a company that was cool that we would be down to work with. And we would just shoot them a message on Facebook or Instagram or wherever we saw their content.
Yeah.
And we would offer, just like a trial video for free. I don't know that if you're not, if you're kind of past that, I don't know that you ever really get fully past that, because there's always projects that could be worth it for your portfolio. But if you're just starting out and you're having some downtime, having some inconsistencies in work that's coming in, put yourself out there more. Put yourself out there to companies that you would like to work with, and offer to do a video for free. Because the worst thing that could happen is you get a new portfolio piece. The best thing that could happen is that person hires you for future videos. That person hires you on a retainer. There's your consistent work right there. That's been our case many times early on, that we would get a retainer for $3,000 a month, and that would carry us through a 6-month period financially. And so just put yourself out there more consistently. Go to networking events, go meet people, shake hands with people, offer, work in advance. If you're not to a point yet where you have people coming to you and paying full price for things, offer videos for free, offer to go shoot something for them as a trial, and see where that goes, because it's definitely not going to hurt.
Next question is advice on how to find my niche and specialize myself. So what does that mean?
Yeah, I think finding your niche is something that you just have to go do for a while. I mean, we've been doing this for 3 years, and I still don't know that we've completely found our niche. But as you continue to put out projects, as you continue to work with clients, and one thing that's really important that I can only really see looking back, being in business for just over 3 years full time, there will be clients that hire you year over year. And so over time, as these clients hire year over year, you'll kind of develop a relationship with them, and they'll kind of be part of your niche. But if there's something that you're passionate about, just go after it. If you're passionate about product videos, then you should be spending all of your free time making spec videos for products. you can really create your niche if you know there's something that you're super passionate about.
Yeah.
And we knew that beginning the company, we knew, we're passionate about music videos. We're passionate and want to create documentaries and like series and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You have to, at the end of the day, you have to pay your bills. So you have to take what you can get, so to say, up until a point. But yeah, I think your niche is something that you will just discover over time as you take everything on and then figure out what you want to do more of.
Totally. I love that. The last and final question, actually from the same guy, Ben, we're going to answer that too. It's how to brand yourself, which can be a really loaded question. There's a lot of right and wrong ways. There's a lot of gray areas in branding. I think even now in 2021, just people have done things differently. A lot of older companies are really focused on mission and vision statements and basing your brand off of that, which I don't think that's wrong, but I do believe that there are other things that matter, maybe even more. I'll just speak from personal experience and like what we do as Glory Visuals. I care a lot about our brand and I take a lot of pride in it. And as far as like logo and as far as, what we post and how we post it, all of that stuff is all a part of your brand. And so we use a really, really simple, clean logo. That's just a few lines that just says GV and it's a little square with a camera, or it looks like a camera. And we've rolled with it for a long time. We got it off Fiverr for like $45.
Yeah.
And it's really worked and people seem to like it and it's clean. As far as like attire and what we wear and how we carry ourselves in a work environment, we wear mostly all black or branded GV gear. And recently we've adopted Lululemon pants into our wedding attire, which seems kind of funny, but honestly, we wear Lululemon pants, just black skinny pants, super comfortable. And then we rock some all black ultra range Vans, which just look super clean. And we probably get a comment on it every time we roll up to a wedding.
Yeah.
And we're super comfortable, but we look professional and it's practical. And then on the outside, like facing like social media brand stuff, we just want to be fun. We want to be professional. We want to be clean, but we want to be ourselves. So we're never trying to portray ourselves to be, and same thing with this podcast. We're absolutely ourselves. We talk like we would to each other. We share stories. We're very vulnerable and open and real about everything that we do in our company. And so that's just kind of like the overarching feel. But as far as Glory Visuals goes, as like a simple who are you and what are you, is Glory Visuals is a premier video production house.
Yeah, and something I would say is you have to, kind of like what Darren touched on, but decide what you want your brand to be in the beginning.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be 100% there when you start the company, but if you know what you're chasing after, that will help you build your brand to fit that. So if I know, if I'm getting into this business because I want to be a wedding filmmaker full time, I'm going to build my brand a lot different than if I wanted to shoot commercials for Adidas someday.
Yes.
And so that can be kind of difficult to brand when you're doing multiple things, but really keeping it simple, like Darren said with us, we just want to be a premier video production company. And so whether that's commercials, whether that's wedding films, like whatever it is, that's what you're going to get from us. And another thing, I forgot completely what I was going to say. And another thing I would say is don't base your brand off of your influencers, if that makes sense.
That's great.
So early on, we watched a lot of Peter McKinnon,
Yep.
Really heavily influenced the style of our shooting and all of that stuff. And so one encouragement that I would give that I feel like we did a pretty good job of is we didn't try to mimic or imitate another brand, which would have been really easy because we were influenced by several different people at the time.
Yeah.
And so really sit down, do some thinking, like what do you want your brand to be in 10 years, 15 years, and build your brand based off of that, and not based on whoever is influencing the style of your work at the time.
Yeah. I think also too, just as you're picking out your logo or you're creating it, I would say have a bunch of your friends and family and people in the industry look at the logo, maybe some of the brand colors and the text or the fonts and the font choices, and just say, hey, what do you think of when you see this? And just start writing those feeler words down. And if that's kind of lining up with what you're going for, then cool, roll with it. If it feels a little gimmicky or childish or not like unprofessional, I would say maybe try to revise it and get it to a little bit closer to what you're going for. If you're a little bit more fun, I heard this on another podcast recently, but Glory Visuals is not using Comic Sans as our font. Why? Because Comic Sans is a softer, more funny, goofy, more playful type font type that we're just not going to use. However, we wanted to find something clean, really professional looking. And so we went with a little bit more of a cleaner looking font. So that just goes for really anything as far as brand colors, as far as font types, as far as logo, all that stuff really matters with branding yourself.
Yeah. And the last thing I would say, maybe a helpful resource for you guys, but there's a company out there called EOS, and they have this thing called the VTO. It's a Vision Traction Organizer. And that can be something that could be really useful for you to fill out early on. It helps you walk through what are your uniques. So as a company, what do we do better than anyone else? So for us, I would say we do our audio editing, music selection, and really like just our shots and composition and editing, shot selection, stuff like that. I think we do really, really well. And so there are certain things on there, not to go through the whole thing, but anyways, it'll help you define what's unique about your brand. What are you really going after? Mm-hmm. What is your vision? What do you want people to feel when they hear the name of your company?
Yeah.
And so that's like I said, it's called the VTO from EOS. You can jump on Google it and download it. I would recommend filling that out for sure.
Yeah, that's so great. All right, guys, I think that's all we have for you today. What great questions, from branding yourself to figuring out your niche and what you want to specialize in, to music and all kinds of great stuff. But we hope this inspired you. If you have any further questions, please hit us up on Twitter or on Instagram or Facebook. We absolutely write these down or save these questions so we can answer them for you right here on the Glory Boys podcast.
That's right. And if you are watching this on YouTube with the visualizer, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell for notifications as we drop these podcasts every Wednesday. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating, whatever you feel that it deserves. We appreciate it. Regardless, we love to hear your feedback on if this has helped you or not helped you. Either way, leave a rating. Let us know how we're doing. And if you're on any other podcast platform, ratings are very much appreciated. But until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been the Glory Boys podcast. We'll see you in the next episode.
Peace.